One of our top stories today, the Socio-Economic Rights Institute, SERI, which represents the family of some of the miners who were killed at Lonmin 7 years ago, says police are still refusing to accept guilt over what happened. 34 miners were shot dead by police during a strike at the Lonmin operations on this day in 2012. But for more on this, I have in studio with me Thato Masiangoako. Thato is a SERI researcher, and as I said, she joins me now live in our studios. Good afternoon to you, Thato. Thank you so much for coming through.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
7 years later, really the question is, has justice been served for the families?
So that's a brilliant question, because 7 years on, I would have to say that no, justice has not been served. We're yet to see any prosecutions on the killings that took place on the 16th of August. And even though some damages have been paid to the families for loss of support, the state is yet to apologize to the families. And not enough has been done, right? We also know that there is a post-Marikana expert panel report that was done and has been completed, and that is yet to be released, right? That is a report that should contain very valuable information about the ways in which public order policing in this country should be reformed in lines of what they found went wrong at Marikana.
Are you looking forward to that particular report? I know that SERI was not impressed with the findings of the commission, more so on the behavior of the police. So are you looking forward? Do you believe that this report will come with a different perspective?
Right. So we at SERI know a few of the people that were on the expert panel, and so I wouldn't say that we are not looking forward to the report. We urgently need for the report to be released, and the Minister of Police has the ability to release that and make that public. In terms of the Follum Commission, I wouldn't say that SERI does not agree or support any of the findings that came out of the Follum Commission. As far as we know, and even an IPID investigation was done, and what we do know is that all of the deaths that occurred at Marikana were the result of police actions. That's what we know, and that is what we need to stick to. And so we want for the expert panel report to be released and made public as soon as possible. And we also want for justice to be served, right? 7 years is a long time.
But what are the families, the children and the widows saying?
They're saying the same thing. So on Monday we staged a protest in Mokwase where some of the trials, or one of the trials at least, have taken off. And what the families are saying is that we are yet to receive justice, right? If you had your husband gunned down at Marikana, your father gunned down at Marikana, and a few years down the line, so if that was your breadwinner, immediately, economically, you're in an awful situation. But further than that, wives had to, some of the wives actually had to take up some of the positions of their husbands. They actually had to go to the mines and go underground to support their families. So the families just want justice, right? All of them are saying the same thing. We want justice to be served. People were responsible for what happened, and we're yet to see action on that. And the question we should be asking is why?
Yeah, but in terms of support, how are these families being supported by government? We know Sibanye has taken over from Lonmin.
Right. I won't comment on the ways in which the families have been supported. That is more...
Are they even being supported? I think that's the question.
Right. So what I can comment on is the fact that damages have been paid in terms of loss of support, right? Yeah. That's something that SERI has been very involved in. And a payout was made, I think, August of 2018. But there is still some... there is still debate around, well, not debate, there hasn't been an agreement reached in terms of general or constitutional damages. And that's what we're still trying to work on as the representatives of
what's causing the delay for the finalization of this claim on the state?
What I do know is that the state has made an offer of 500,000 per family, and what we're saying as representatives of the 36 families is that, you know, that is not sufficient, right? To have lost a loved one, possibly the only breadwinner in the family, in the way that the loved one was lost, 500,000 says very little, right? And it fails to really take into account the trauma that these families have gone through 7 years on. So what we're saying as SERI is that 500,000 is not sufficient, and that's what we need to reach an agreement on.
What figure are you looking at?
What SERI has asked for, if I am correct, is 2 million per family. But what I would want to urge is that beyond the financial cost, right, is the loss of life, and the loss of life in such a violent manner. So, I mean, how would you quantify how would you quantify your family losing you, right? How do we put a figure on what you would have contributed? And even your contribution goes beyond the financial contributions that you make, right? You lose a father, you lose a partner, you lose a mentor, you lose someone, right? And the trauma that they had to go through throughout that entire process, we're saying 500,000 is simply not sufficient.
All right, Thato, we've run out of time. We'll leave it at this for now, but thank you so much for coming through.
Thanks a lot.
All right, well, there you have it. Thato Masiangoako is a researcher at the Socio-Economic Rights Institute, that is SERI, talking to us about how far the process is really in terms of some compensation for the families who've lost their members during the Marikana